then of course global growth is moderating. How do we export? And then we need to also pursue our own strategic. So we have to be strong internally. How de-dollarization is working. I don't think I want to spend too much time on this slide. Just these 3 points. See, when a Saudi Arabian sheikh, if I'm a Saudi Arabian rich guy, I want to buy a fancy Toyota, the high-end Toyota, hybrid electric vehicle. तो कुछ 1 करोड़ का गाड़ी है. So I am Saudi Arabian. Dinar is my currency. I am buying it from a Japanese car maker called Toyota. तो हम लोग को डॉलर से लेना देना ही नहीं है. And yet, this invoicing, the billing happens in dollars. That's called the invoicing currency. 95% of the global trade is invoiced in dollars, even though there is no actual dollar flow. Secondly, the clearing and settlement. Most of the clearing and settlement, 60% of it goes through New York. And then foreign exchange reserves. All these countries in the world who are exporting, they have surplus. Where do they park the surplus? In dollars, again. But all that is changing now. In invoicing, people are now actively invoicing in non-dollar invoicing. India is encouraging that with our neighbors, with our trading partners. Directly rupee invoicing करो. If foreign tourist आएगा, Taj Mahal hotel में जाएगा, bill rupees में आएगा. No longer those days are over now. Dollar में bill नहीं आएगा. You import something from Russia, you tell Russia कि we'll pay you in rupees. You better accept rupees. वो सब change हो रहा है. So the dollar का hegemony is slowly going down. Not rapidly, but slowly going down. Which is something what Mr. Trump does not like. They don't like this. So what has changed under Trump 2.0, second presidency? Very high tariffs suddenly across the world and all those sectoral surcharges and penalty charges. Then select Indian categories are facing very penal rates like textiles, gems and jewelry, seafood, especially shrimp. The shrimp industry in Andhra Pradesh has gone down to zero thanks to Trump. We are struggling what to do. And then light engineering. The objective appears to be twofold. Trump's objective, reshore the supply chain so that they come onshore into America. And secondly, increasing the bargaining leverage on partners. There are spillover costs, compliance costs, shipment delays, renegotiation of contracts, price pressure on price, all kinds of things are happening. American consumers are going to face a brunt of this. When import duties go up in America, the importer is paying more, 50% more. If you're importing towels from Wellspun India company to Costco and the Walmart in America, the towel is suddenly double kimmat. It is going to be borne by American consumer. So kabhi na kabhi wo backlash aane wala hai, but we'll see. And then of course Trump is trying to prevent Russian oil purchases. But there is hypocrisy. India ko penalize kar raha hai, China ko chhod diya, Europe ko chhod diya. India's exposure is all in labor export, manufacturing exports, apparel, leather, footwear. The effective duty lines have been raised to double digits, 50%. There is a risk for order deferrals. A lot of orders are getting cancelled. There is timing. This whole thing is overlapping with weak global demand. So we have, unfortunately, this is also a time our exports are getting affected, but global trade is slowing down also. And then they are also going to say कि rules of origin भी हम लोग करेंगे. That is, India क्या बोलते हैं कि towel में करे Wellspun. Let's say, just giving a hypothetical example. That they are going to, if you export from India, they're going to put 50% import duty. हम लोग क्या करते हैं? दुबई को लेके जाएंगे. We'll take it to Dubai and Dubai बंदा export करते हैं. तेरा zero duty. So America is very clever. नहीं ऐसा नहीं चलेगा. If you are exporting from Dubai, Dubai has to add value of 40%. So rules of origin it's called. So we have to watch out for that also. We can't do this, indirect way of bypassing the penal rates. And then of course we have the H1B squeeze, the software industry. 70% of the H1B visas, work visas, were issued to Indians. So it is targeted against Indians only. New H1B visa will be charged $100,000, $1 lakh. So that is of course causing a lot of turmoil. And strangely, I won't go through these bullets, but strangely, two things are going to happen. Number one, because of the higher cost of H1B hiring, there will be more offshoring to India. Actually, strangely, it might benefit India because the companies will want to then do the work outside. Secondly, many of this H1B channel used to be Indian students going for higher studies, master's degree, MBA, MCA, MTech, ME, MS to USA, and then join the American workforce. They need an H1B. And that used to be a significant revenues for American universities. It's down by 19%. This August, I saw the data. Students applying for American student visas down by 9. So the American universities के लिए अच्छा चंदा था, you good business. प्रत्येकाकडनं काहीतरी $20,000-$30,000 tuition fee. So it's a very significant hit. So two of these things are going straight away negative. So immediate impact for India is that there will be a margin squeeze on profit, potential market share loss. The mix will shift towards offshore. I told you that, and we'll have to renegotiate the prices because many of the customers will say you better reduce your prices. And there will be a risk to all the new FDI that's coming into India, which was targeting USA as the market. We want to set up an electronics factory in India, जिसका main export market will be USA. Such FDI will be under danger, risk. So what have we done? We have diversified our FTA pipeline, free trade agreement. We have signed FTA with UK. We have signed FTA with the European Union. We are signing FTA with Australia. We are pursuing an FTA with Canada. And we are pursuing FTA with some of the South American countries. So all this is details of that. There is also possible that we will join the CPTPP. That is, full form is CPTPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. So CPTPP is no, CPTPP is that this was actually initiated by President Obama before 2016. He wanted a coalition of some 12 countries, including Japan, Peru, Chile, America, but to keep out China, to keep out Europe. And that failed. Mr. Trump just killed it. So there is a renewed interest in the same agreement minus USA. So India bolta hai, humko lo na. So we should, CPTPP is something we are trying to actively knock on their door. And RCEP, that you mentioned. So Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership is a free trade agreement, more than free trade, between 16 countries. The 10 ASEAN countries, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, then Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, and Brunei. ये 10. उसके अलावा Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and China and India. 8 years we negotiated this, actively saying हम लोग RCEP join करेंगे. Suddenly in 2019 we made an abrupt U-turn. नहीं कट्टी. अरे now it is 7 years old. So we are thinking नहीं हमने गलत चूक केली आपण. परत जायला पाहिजे. Because it represents 40% of global GDP. Why did we do that? I don't know. We are afraid of China, maybe. Or fear. Anyway, that's a big discussion. So we are thinking of going back to RCEP. We are also opening China finally after Galwan. See, 1962 was, I know there are military people here. So anyway, let me say it. 1962 was the India-China war. Okay. After that, for 58 years, there was no casualty. Nobody died. गर्मा-गर्मी होती बॉर्डर पर, नोक जोक होता था, आईबॉल टू आईबॉल, लाल आंख करते थे एक दूसरे को, लेकिन कोई मरा नहीं. Suddenly in the month of May and June 2020, in the middle of COVID, I think 20-25 people were killed. That changed everything. फिर चाइना का boycott शुरू हो गया. But 5 years later, we are rethinking. Maybe it's not a good idea. Some 20-30,000 Indian students are doing MBBS. In fact, Ukraine may 20,000 students. There are a lot of Indians who go to China for higher studies. In China has issued a new K visa, instant work visa. China is expanding at 4-5%. They are 5 times bigger than India. $4 trillion or 20 trillion. Or that's increasing at 5%. So India is now recalibrating its relationship. At least on trade, commerce, investment. Border issues are there, political issues are there. But business, so flights have been started now. There's a Calcutta to Guangzhou flight, Delhi to Shanghai, Delhi to Beijing, maybe Mumbai to Shanghai. So flights are शुरू हो रहे हैं. Tourism. Then we have to deepen our ASEAN partnership, and then of course the alliances like SCO and BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So there's also diplomacy. Though ये जो नया US ambassador आया है, this fellow is supposed to be someone that we can persuade कि look, don't be, India, China, India, USA का इतना जो misunderstanding है, let's try to de-escalate it. So there's scope for diplomacy as well. That is open some high-level engagement channels, bipartisan industry resistance from US, companies like Microsoft, Google, They're all push back to Mr. Trump. We depend a lot, IBM, we depend on India. So let's not, be so hostile. And then, of course, we can talk to USA and talk about some carve outs. For example, Indian pharma, which is the major export to USA, uske liye zero duty kiya hai. So in the near term, what we must do is that we have to give some subsidy to our exporters. It's called ROTDEP. I don't want to give the details. Then we should cut import duties on intermediaries which are used for production here. We should fast track all the FTAs, the free trade agreements with other countries. And of course, we should insulate our services industry, that is software. These are India's sources of resilience. We have a large domestic market. So all said and done, यहाँ पे 60% GDP यहाँ पे ही बेच सकते हैं. We have huge support from the government in terms of capital expenditure, 52% growth last year. So the government is pushing a lot of money into infrastructure spending. Industrial policy, I told you, production linked incentives is helping electric vehicles, electronics, aerospace, smartphones. India's export of smartphones, including iPhones, has gone up to some $20 billion, $30 billion. Social insurance, that we are giving free food range scheme for the last 5 years. It's going to be extended by another 5 years. We have the universal health insurance, Ayushman Bharat. Then we have employment guarantee scheme, Manrega. We have fiscal prudence. The government is relatively fiscally prudent, but can discuss the details. We have had several rating upgrades from many sovereign rating agencies in the world. So they also recognize that itna sab karke bhi 6.5-7% growth yahan pe ho raha hai. Something must be right, resilient. So I'm saying the challenges are there, but let's not forget that we have our strengths. So I think the final word is that Trump is going to face internal pushback because from the corporate sector as well as legal, all those orders are going to be challenged in courts. They'll go all the way up to the Supreme Court. So that's an important factor to remember. Second is that the impact of inflation on the American public and the reduced investment enthusiasm into America and the huge debt burden. America has a debt burden of $36 trillion and the shutdown of the US government. I don't know if it's still in shutdown mode. All that will impact Trump's policies. The tariff shock is a blessing in disguise for India because we must pursue economic reforms. Last bullet here. We have inbuilt resilience. We must push for more reforms and diversify our export markets, and we have to push on our own competitiveness. And ultimately, we have to pursue our own strategic autonomy. That is, we will form coalitions with whoever is opportunistically friendly to us. If it is Shanghai Cooperation Organization, sure. If it is BRICS, sure. And if it's ASEAN, if it's RCEP, हम करेंगे, सब जगह जाएंगे. I mean, I think I anticipate we had some telepathy, so I had some slide for that. So I've gone back beyond the thank you slide, the reforms agenda. So these are the reforms that we need to do. So let me just keep it on while we take other questions. The reforms agenda are many things in agriculture, in MSME. In ease of when we say ease of doing business, ease of starting a business, ease of doing business, ease of closing down the business. Then judicial reforms. We have 5 crore pending cases in the courts. How many of you are doing LLB also? Side mein? Any LLB students? Law school? Electoral reforms. That is for me the most favorite subject. We should have more transparency, clean political parties. Basically, political parties should become accountable. They are not subject to RTI. We don't know how. तुमच्यापैकी कोणी वोटिंग केलं आतापर्यंत? Wonderful. Can you tell me, any one of you, can you tell me who elects our आमदार किंवा खासदार? Who elects the person? त्याला इलेक्ट कोण करतं? आम्ही करतो. Wrong answer. गलत जवाब. ते म्हणतात आम्ही वोटर लोक इलेक्ट करतो. नो. What you go to the ballot box, EVM वर जी नावं असतात त्याच्यावर आपला काही कंट्रोल नसतो. They give you a ready-made menu, but वो menu पे वो आदमी आया कैसे? गुंडा. So somebody else is selecting the candidates, and you only go to the ballot box to press the button कि ये 4 नाव है, ये कोई X, Y, Z, गुंडा X, गुंडा Y. So you have to put pressure on inner party democracy so that the candidates themselves, in America there is a system of primaries. So कोण उमेदवार होणार ह्याच्याकरता आधी there is a चुनाव. And only then they come on the ballot, and so Kamala Harris or even Trump or Obama, they had to fight so much before they came onto the ballot, final ballot. Then the 73rd, anyway, this is a list. So this is not a comprehensive list. Okay, so let's have the questions. If you don't ask questions, then your NAC rating will go down.
Okay, any questions? I think before you all warm up and before you start thinking a little more deliberately, let me ask a question to the speaker. Uh, how come President Trump, despite being so strong, have not been able to stop the shutdown and his government is still closed? How does that? How do
No,
they
that's why I said in the presidential form of democracy, the president has a lot of executive privilege and a lot of powers, but the system of checks and balances is such that the Congress, so the budget has to be passed. So the president can propose the Congress. When they say Congress, it has two parts: bicameral legislature. So what we call Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, lower house. In America, they are called House of Congressmen or Congresswomen. That is the equivalent of our Lok Sabha, and the Senate. So there are only 100 senators, two for every state, 100 senators, and there are some 436, 438 in there. So together, sometimes this is called the Congress. So the budget approval has to come from Congress. So this is the system of checks and balances. That's why, and it affects only government employees, by the way.
that's a federal employee.
Yeah. Federal government employees. But it has happened repeatedly. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Give me a mic.
Yeah.
What?
So, sir, as you said about the Indian economy and the USA economy, so as per you, is the Indian economy increasing or is it decreasing?
So you have a simple question. His question is the Indian economy increasing or decreasing? और इतना मैंने माथा फोड़ के बोला कि it is expanding, expanding, expanding. It is always expanding. Sometimes it's expanding at 5%, sometimes at 4%, sometimes at 9%. But it is always, every year the Indian economy is bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We want it to go, we want it to grow at a faster pace, but also more inclusive and more sustainable. We don't want it to grow at say 25%. So, it's overheating the engine. See, every machine has to run at a particular speed. But we want the Indian economy to grow maybe at 8 or 9%. But that growth should be something that is inclusive. सबको उसका फायदा मिलना चाहिए. When we say India's GDP is growing at 5% or 6%, some parts of the economy are growing at 0%, unfortunately, like rural economy, or 1%. And some parts, like the Ambanis and Adanis, are growing at 15% maybe. So average turns out to be 5. So we want the growth to be high. We want the growth to be inclusive, that means well spread out, and we want it to be sustainable. It should sustain for 20 years. So these three things are important. But it is expanding. Yeah.
Sir, I am not able to understand.
ये स्लाइड बाद में स्मगल किया गया है. But anyway, you can ask the question.
That decentralization point, I am not able to.
So in 1992, Indian Parliament passed a very historic amendment to the Constitution, Ghatana Durusti. 73rd Amendment, 74th Amendment. You know what that is. It gave constitutional status to the village government and city government, म्हणजे panchayat and the corporation. So this means, what was the spirit of that? It was to decentralize power. So a lot of the funds, functions, functionaries should be done. In your day-to-day life, most of the issues that you face are the issues which are the responsibility of your local government. Whether it is the pothole, water supply, sewage, kachra, traffic, police, it's a local issue. Local government has to tackle it. But people who आज खड्डा दिखाया गया, मोदी को ट्वीट करते हैं, हे मोदी सरकार क्या कर रहा है, यहाँ पे खड्डा है. सो दॅट इज सत्तेचं विकेंद्रीकरण झालं पाहिजे, तर उलट होत आहे. आणि याला 35 वर्ष झाली. 1992, it was passed in 33 years ago, and still we are very weak, or we have not progressed much on the विकेंद्रीकरण. In fact, ते सगळं आपल्याकडे सत्तेचं राजकारण झालंय. The centralization of power is increasing and increasing and increasing. कुठला भी म्युन्सिपल इलेक्शन आएगा तो why should the top leaders of Delhi come to do campaigning in Kothurud? But that's the way it is. So unless we this reform, सत्तेचं विकेंद्रीकरण. If you go to American democracy, for all its faults, the city council, the mayor of New York is more powerful than sometimes even the chief minister of their state, governor it's called, or sometimes some other presidential powers. So we want our elected representatives of local corporations, corporators, of our village panchayats, panchayat leaders, sarpanch, to be more powerful and take more decisions and have more autonomy. In Maharashtra, for the last 4 years, 4 वर्ष झाली, no elections have happened. Expiry date झाली. Every 5 years you're supposed to have elections for Pune Municipal Corporation, Mumbai Municipal Corporation, Nagpur, Nashik. 4 years. Who is running the city? शहर कोण चालवत आहे? Government. नाही. The commissioner, municipal commissioner. He's a employee, Government of India का employee actually, Government of Maharashtra. So some elected, not unelected bureaucrats are running, which is not the way the democracy is supposed to function. But कोणी काय हुकाचू करत नाहीये. Maybe this can continue for another 10 years. क्या फर्क पड़ता है? So what happens is this lowers the aspiration of the people. Yeah, ऐसा ही है इंडिया में. That is the thing. The more damage is done when you lower your aspiration. खड्डा एक ही खड्डा है ना, ठीक है ना, ऐसा इधर से जाओ. Have you tried to send text SMS when you are sitting in a rickshaw? टाइप करायचा प्रयत्न केला तुम्ही? Anyway. नाही देते तिथे पण होते. Yeah.
Why nobody is questioning that?
Why don't his answer? What's your name?
Okay.
Sawik.
Okay.
Taufik. So very basic question. He's asking, please sit down. So in 2008, there was a major financial crisis in the world. It's called global. You know that, right? Wall Street total crash. Other bank collapse. Europe में, America में. So after that happened in September 2008, and it was happening for the 1 or 2 months. So December में there was a major conference in London School of Economics. Chief guest of that conference was the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. Right? So she came, and there was a galaxy of some 100, top star economists, Nobel Prize winners. So she asked a simple question: hey, if this was a global financial crisis, once in a century event, how come none of the economists saw it coming? So he's asked that kind of a question, basic. Sir, why is there no ease of doing business? अरे ये बहुत ही आपने deep question पूछा है. So when you until 1991, to even forget about starting a new business, even if you had a business and you wanted to increase your capacity, suppose you are producing, let's say, 100 trucks, आपको 105 करना है, then you needed a permission, license. So we de-licensed. So even today, when you try to start a new business, you have so many compliance costs. Some at the city level, municipality level, some at the state level, some at the central government level. So many permissions, so many ये करो, PAN number निकालो, TAN number, TIN number निकालो, ये आधार करो. It's not easy. I mean, I know from my personal example that a friend of mine, he is in the farm produce. They make packaged food, and they are also into export. So they had to start a business office in Singapore. Singapore का business registration took only 2 days. In India 6 महीना हुआ तो भी अभी तक नहीं हुआ. So it's a live example. So the reason is because of the complex procedures and complex set of rules, and then I'm not even mentioning the other big word which starts with C. आपको मालूम है? People are nodding. So forget about that. Even the procedural part. Now on the other hand, they say if you make it too easy, then all kinds of anti-social or sort of those criminal elements will come in. But why do we always suspect the public? Maybe 1% is like that, 2%. But uske liye don't punish the remaining 98%. That's the approach seems to be that laws are designed to prevent abuse or fraud, but the fraud is committed only by 2% people, I think. Most people are law-abiding people. If you don't have that trust in Indian public, then we are in serious trouble.
Here on the right side, please introduce
Yeah.
yourself.
Hello, myself Yash.
Yeah.
So, sir, we have heard about Made in India lots of time. But sir, what is this Make in India aims for? And its
No, we
impact
want,
on-
see,
And its impact on our
we
industry.
see a short answer to that is that the manufacturing sector in India, the share of manufacturing in total GDP is 17%. Okay. In 1991, when we had the crisis year, because we wanted manufacturing to expand, and we removed licensing. मतलब जो भी आप manufacturing शुरू करो. In that year, the share of manufacturing to GDP in 1991 was 17%. So after 34 years, the share of GDP is only still 17%. Something is not, so that's why we want that share of GDP of manufacturing to go up from 17 to at least 25%. That is what Make in India is all about. To have more manufacturing base here, and not only to sell to Indians but also to sell to the whole world.
Yeah. Any more questions from the last rows?
One lady has to ask. One. We have to represent the female half of the population.
33%.
अभी ये challenge है आप लोगों को. One last question. Anybody? Yeah, yeah.
First of all, introduce yourself and then ask your question loudly.
And my question is, whatever Donald Trump is doing, like these tariffs and all, will it be impacting India in a longer run, or is India,
Yeah, I can hear
or
you.
is India powerful enough to make it all settle? And
So her question is that are Trump's policies going to hurt India, and is India strong enough to withstand? Is that your question?
in a longer run.
Yeah. So of course they are hurting India. We know that. I gave you the example that the shrimp. We had major shrimp exports, and we had the 46 or 50% market share of American shrimp imports. Shrimp is seafood, which is they have shrimp farms in mostly coastal Andhra Pradesh. They're not from Maharashtra actually, although even Maharashtra can be in that business. So that has been affected immediately. I gave you the example. ये जो सफेद towels देते हैं, Turkish towel. Welspun is the leading supplier. Welspun, a company called Welspun, is a leading supplier of towels to America. So they are also affected. And we are doing steel exports. So many sectors have been affected. But the belief is that this is going to be temporary. There will be negotiation. Even as we speak, there is some back channel negotiation going on. There are some exceptions being negotiated. Isko maaf karo, usko maaf karo. For example, we are major supplier of generic pharmaceutical drugs to America, which are then put in formulations and branded and sold. And healthcare industry is 20% of GDP for them. So if you start putting tariffs on that, they will increase the cost of healthcare in America, which they don't want. So they are already talking about exceptions to the pharma generics. So धीरे धीरे करके ऐसा कुछ मतलब I think in the medium term things will get sorted out. As I said, one of the bullets I had was maybe it's a blessing in disguise. See this third bullet is the tariff shock a blessing in disguise for India. Maybe we should use this opportunity to pursue all the reforms. He was asking na, why ease of doing business. What do we really see? Remember that in India manufacturing sector mein 40% of manufacturing is done by small, micro and medium enterprises. 40%, 45% employment is in the MSME sector. 45% of the exports come from that. But they don't get 40% of bank credit. They don't get bank credit. They got only 10, kitna bhi कोशिश करके. So can we make it easy? And they are affected by the license Raj has gone, but the inspector Raj has come. कभी भी आ सकता है, मांग सकता है. So we have to find ways to make it easy to do small, medium enterprises to thrive. So thank you. Then I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a school here next door, and the children are taught A for apple, B for bat, and now everybody is learning T for tariff. So that is the kind of impact that the president has generated on Indians. So from here onwards, T will be for tariff. I must thank Dr. Ranade for telling us in a very simple manner the current state of Indian economy, the headwinds that we are facing, and what we need to do to avoid all those. A few facts that he brought out, so not very well known, we tend to forget, is that 45 years our economy has been expanding continuously. That is something which is very, very creditable. And we are the only consistent economy in Asia which has got a consistent trade and current account deficit without much of a variation. And we have withstood a number of non-weather shocks. And you are aware of all those dates that he gave out starting from 1990 onwards. One figure which he highlighted was that we are earning 220 billion US dollars from our software exports and our remittances are 140 billion. So this is the kind of importance that we have of people who are staying abroad and sending money to us. Then he further went on to mention about the six structural growth drivers, which are demographics, urbanization, digital advancement, renewable energy, infrastructure deficit being caught up, and our exports. And then he went on to tell us about the global headwinds and how to navigate them. And also, a very important point he mentioned about the non dollar invoicing, which India has started now, which is helping us now. And what has changed under Trump 2.0, and what will be the impact for India? And what are we doing now? Like we are looking eastward now, maybe to RCEP and to China, using diplomacy and taking some long term and near term actions. And we are very lucky that 61% of our economy is domestic consumption. So we've been able to withstand this shock to some extent. And finally, he mentioned that this tariff may be a blessing in disguise. Already our GCCs, Global Capability Centers, are expanding. And just yesterday we heard that in Vishakhapatnam, there's a big plant coming up on AI. This is of by Google, very massive plant which is coming up. So thank you, thank you, Dr. Ranade, for simplifying this complex subject and letting the students know the basics of it. Um, I must also thank Dr. Deshpande for giving us this infrastructure and organizing this lecture here and organizing all the logistics which are required for this. And finally, big thanks to the audience, the students especially, who showed a lot of interest in economics. Normally, it's only we spend some time only on spending the economics, but you try to understand the better part of it. So thank you very much for your interactive session. And another announcement I have to make before we close down, that is on 31st October, IMCC and Center for Advanced Strategic Studies is conducting a lecture here at the same venue on Operation Sindoor by A. Marshal Chaudhary. So you all are requested to attend this. Um, and before I wind up, after the lecture, we have high tea for all of you. So please join us. Thank you. Jai Hind.